Does anyone know if Councilmember Iverson is planning on coming back? Okay, I think I'm going to give him a call.
Okay.
If I'm on the phone, Madam Mayor, we're recording as need be. So if you need to start, feel free.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Pastor Scott.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
Were your ears ringing, Jared? I don't even think I got one ring in before you came on.
Yeah, it barely just popped up on my phone. I was like, who's calling me?
Okay, perfect.
Okay, welcome everybody. We are now called to order. Roll call, Monica, or sorry, roll call, Teresa.
Councilmember Wickenhagen?
Here.
Councilmember Iverson?
Here.
Councilmember Marquis?
Here.
Councilmember Peterson?
Here.
Councilmember Bell?
Here.
Councilmember Costello?
Here.
Councilmember Carlson?
Here.
Everyone's here, Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I hope Monica's watching this so she knows that we miss her. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, will you please pray with me? Father God, in your word in Hebrews 13:8, it says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And God, I thank you that that is true, because when I read the Bible, I see that you are present in the celebrations and you are present in the struggles and in the storms. And what that means to me is that you are present with us still today in all of those things. So Lord, my prayer is, as we gather tonight, that you would be with us in all of those. And whether we're working through hard times or we are celebrating, that we would lean on you, we would look to you as we look to lead and serve this community. I pray blessing on those who've come to serve. I pray blessing on those who've come to support. And Lord, my prayer is that your will be done in Selah, Washington. I pray these things in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Public or agenda changes, we have none. Public appearances, introductions, and presentations. Katrina Hinkle.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So if you don't mind, I'm going to do double duty tonight. I'm going to talk about the SDA and Community Days, because Community Days is going to actually happen this year, it looks like. So we'll start with the SDA, if that's okay with you, Madam Mayor and Council, and then we'll move into Community Days. So Sip and Stroll's coming up. There's an informational meeting at the Civic Center on February 23rd at 5:30 p.m. for any vendors or locations that would like to be involved. We would like you to be there. If you can't be there, send a designated person from your company so they can report back to you and represent you with questions. It will be June 18th, along with Hot Rods on First from 11 to, I believe we said 4. So be looking out for information on that. Cash mobs are coming back, so we want to encourage council to all just keep an eye on social media and the newsletter as we start announcing those cash mobs, so we can get out there and support our businesses. Some of the businesses that we've mobbed in the past have reported that those were their best sales day on record. So we definitely want to just do our part to show some support. Selah's annual Business Discovery Easter egg hunt will be March 14th through April 14th. So we're looking for businesses that want to participate in that. And we're looking for folks with kiddos to go and explore and maybe find a new business that they didn't know much about. The B&O Tax Credit Incentive Program is open for applications through March 30th. If you have questions, I'm happy to come and educate and talk about it and just show you how that works. the SDA Design Committee is holding their second annual rummage sale on Saturday, March 26th in the old Wells Fargo building. So we are looking for gently used donation items so that we can sell that we need things to sell, obviously. We want to say a huge thanks to the LTAC committee for voting to approve some of our utility wraps. I know that's got to come through council still. I know it's not final, but we just want to say thank you so much for being willing to partner with us on that. And our facade improvement grant applications are open, and we're accepting them through February 28th. So preference is given to anyone in our footprint, which is Selah through Fremont and 3rd through Jim Clemens or Weenus. But we are accepting applications from any of our businesses that can be seen from a main road. Any questions on any of that? That was a ton of stuff to go through. Russ?
Katrina, can you elaborate for the council what the cash mob is? And
A
the
cash-
benefit, and also the benefit from the rummage sale last year.
Did I
what-
just freeze?
Mm-mm.
Are
No,
you
you're
there?
good. Yep, you're good, Katrina.
Okay, so I didn't hear all of Russ's question, but a cash mob is basically we are inviting the community and other business owners, community leaders to come into a business who will provide a special for the day. Sorry, my nose itches. A special for the day for us to come and take part in and shop, right? And then in exchange, if you spend more than $20 or take advantage of whatever the special is, then you get to enter into a drawing to win a prize for going and spending money and supporting this business. It looks like our first cash mob will be Anytime Fitness, and they haven't told me what all of the deals they're going to provide, but it will be some membership sign-on specials and then some other stuff for current members. So I'm kind of excited to see how that goes. And that's why we say spend $20 or more or take advantage of whatever their special is for that moment. And we're going to run them for 2 days instead of just a few hours this time around, so that folks that are trying to social distance, we don't have a huge glob of people in one area. Folks can kind of come and go during the business's normal business hours. Did that answer it for you, Russ? Perfect. So if there's no more questions on the SDA stuff, I'll switch gears and we'll go community days, which is, I think, exciting for us all. So thank you again to LTAC. They voted to support community days this time around again. And they are back. They will be May 19th through the 22nd in Carlon Park. And this year's theme is the next 100 years in a steampunk style. So that's kind of exciting. If you guys don't know what steampunk is, look it up. It's very like industrial, retro, futuristic, all in one. It's really hard to explain, but it's just kind of fun. And so expect all the traditions: Young Life barbecue dinner on Thursday at the Civic Center, Buddy Night at the Carnival. Friday will be a potato feed sponsored by the Chamber at the Civic Center, and at Carlon Park will be the car show. The trophies were created by the Selah High School shop class. And new this year, the royalty pageant will include children's grades kindergarten through 11, and it will be held on stage Friday night instead of, I think it used to be Saturday or Sunday, didn't it? So they're going to switch it up a little this year. And then Saturday, so that the new royalty is available for the float on Saturday for the parade. So then Saturday will be the pancake feed sponsored by Stone Church, and it will actually be at Stone Church. The parade will start staging at 10 a.m. at the Comet parking lot, and it will head towards Carlon Park. There will be fireworks Saturday evening in memory of Milt Brown, and we are accepting sponsors so that we can make it a memorable show. So if you are a business, if you want to sponsor, please reach out to Selah Community Days, and I'll give you that information in just a moment. The Buccaneers and Wise Blood will be battling it out on the stage in the evening, so we will have live music again, which is exciting. And then Sunday, I heard that there will be the combined church service in the park, but also they're working on a community softball game. So we want to get I don't think they've figured out if it's community against police and fire, who the key players are, but it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun however it lands. So be watching social media. You can visit their website at selahdays.com, or if you have questions, you can email selahcommunitydays@gmail.com. Applications for any of the vendors, for royalty, any of that can be found online at their website or at the Civic Center or Sentinel Computers. Again, a ton of information. Did I lose anyone? Do we have questions? Okay, I'm gonna go breathe now because I'm out. Thank you so much for listening, you guys. Have a great
Thank you, Katrina.
yeah.
Thanks, Katrina. Getting to know our business, we have none. Communications, there were no written comments submitted. Oral, we have none. Written, we have none. Proclamations and announcements, we have none. Consent agenda, all items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. Should any council member request that any item on the consent agenda be considered separately, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and become part of the regular agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Kevin, a second by Cliff. All those in favor? Unanimous. Teresa, please read the consent agenda.
Approval of minutes, January 25th, 2022 council meeting. Approval of claims and payroll. Item number N1, resolution authorizing the Public Works Director to sign a water quality stormwater capacity agreement with the Washington Department of Ecology for $70,000 in grant funds for the city's stormwater management plan.
Thank you. Public hearings, we have none. General business. Under new business, I have some board appointment announcements. For the LTAC committee, I have appointed Mike Furstow. He is from the Yakima Elks, and he is part of the lodging money that goes into LTAC. They do rentals down there for motorhomes and campers. So it'll be great to have him on there. Mike, if you're out there listening, welcome. For the SPRSA committee, we needed to appoint 2 members, and Norma Smith is appointed, and also we welcome Roy Sample, who has stepped up to sit on that committee. So thank you guys for stepping up and being part of the community and making those decisions. Old business, we have none. Resolutions. Into Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Council. For your consideration is a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city attorney to sign a contract with the Washington State Department of Commerce for the Crusher Canyon Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project. The city was successful in receiving a federal grant in the amount of $1 million for the Crusher Canyon Sanitary Sewer Improvements Project. The Washington State Department of Commerce is a regulatory agency that is administering the grant at a cost of $30,000 for its efforts. The city is receiving the remainder of the funds, $970,000, which funds can then be applied towards construction costs on the said project. Staff's recommendation is approval. Are there any questions from council?
Approved resolution as presented.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Kevin, a second by Russ. Roll call, Teresa.
Questions, Madam Mayor?
Oh, sorry. Do we have any discussion? Kevin?
Yeah, Rocket, there's a lot of administration that is required in this grant and the use of the grant, including control of the subcontractors and collecting data on them, includes the audit etc. So do we have a plan of who's going to be doing this paperwork to accept the grant and use it?
Yes, prior action that was taken, 6/8 of 21, there's a task order for HLA engineering. I'm sorry, I got the wrong date. Excuse me. HLA will be administering this grant paperwork for the city. I'm sorry, I went to track versus a task order.
Okay, so they're the ones that will manage making sure we're compliant with the grant.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Any more discussion, council? Okay, Teresa, roll call.
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you. Resolution N3. Mr.
Thank you.
Wallace.
This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a WashDOT local agency federal aid project prospectus and WashDOT local agency agreement supplement number 1 to obligate construction funding for the Fremont sidewalk improvement projects. So the city must obligate construction funding in order to move forward with the construction of a new curb and gutter, sidewalk, ADA ramps, rapid flashing beacons, and asphalt repairs on West Fremont Avenue from North First Street to North 4th Street. And ultimately, this is just the next step in the process for this federal funding. Are there any questions?
Move to approve.
Mike, second.
We have a motion to approve by Roger, a second by Mike. Is there any discussion, council? Roger?
Is there any funding coming from the school district under the CEPA to cover part of this?
Not at this time, Mr. Bell. Currently, this is a grant, all federal, and it's 100% grant. So there is no match needed from the school district at this time.
Thank you.
Seeing no more discussion, Teresa, roll call.
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis, I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't hear you.
I think she
Yes.
froze.
Oh, gotcha, perfect. Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson,
Yes.
unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. N4, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you. For your consideration is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with Natural Selection Farms, Inc. for transportation and land application of Class A and Class B biosolids. The city's wastewater treatment plant generates approximately 350 dry tons of biosolids per year, all of which have been Class A biosolids. Class A biosolids are granular in form, and a transportation contractor must provide storage totes that can be easily retrieved on a regular basis. The Class B biosolids are liquid in form and cake biosolids, which must be picked up by a transportation contractor within 4 hours of notice. The application must provide the land for the application of a Class B biosolids, and the land must be properly permitted. It will cost the city $1,206.72 per tanker load. In addition, a fee of $25 per wet ton will be charged for land application if we produce a Class B. Currently, the city only produces a Class A biosolid. So this is a worst case scenario. Are there any questions?
Elizabeth?
I was just curious if this was a renewal of an existing contract that we have with Natural Selection Farms, or if this is new, or how we've disposed of this previously.
Yes, this is the third contract with Natural Selection Farms with the city.
Cliff?
I'll move to approve as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Jared. So we have a motion to approve by Cliff, a second by Jared. Is there any discussion, council? Kevin?
So we have individual pickup costs. What is our annual cost for this? Do you know? And does that qualify for needing to go out for RFQ?
Currently, Kevin, there is no cost for the city to have the biosolids removed. There would only be a cost if we produced a Class B. So we are producing a Class A. They take it for free. The contract does allow for them to look for potential beneficiaries at which they could sell that for the city, and then we would get a check, but we have not been successful in that in the previous years.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Russ?
Rocky, what do they do with this? They spread this in the field and does it act as a fertilizer? What do they do with it?
That's exactly right. They spread it over a field. They cultivate it into the ground, and so they use it as fertilizer. Yes.
Required time to leave a bee, or is it can it be
I can't.
put into the as a fertilizer one year and harvested product next following year, crop next year?
Russ, we didn't catch the first part of that.
Is there a required hold time on this product, or can they use it as a fertilizer 1 year and put a crop on it the following?
I am not sure the exact process on that. I am more than happy to reach out to Natural Selection Farms and get that answer for you and bring that back at the next council meeting if you would like. Okay.
Is any more discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Teresa.
Councilmember Wickenhagen,
Yes.
Councilmember Iverson,
Yes.
Councilmember Marquis,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Costello,
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson,
Yes.
unanimous, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rocky. Ordinances, we have none. Public appearances, we have none. Reports and announcements. Let's do Chief Lang.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor. For tonight, updates on our portable radios that were ordered. We're supposed to receive them today or tomorrow. So we did not get them today. So hopefully tomorrow we'll start playing with those new radios and put them all in service here shortly after we get trained up on them. The new AEDs that the commissioners purchased for the department have arrived with our one trainer, but we have not put them in service yet due to training, and the pediatric pads that come with those were back ordered. So we're waiting on those before we get them in service. Other than that, just working on the year-end report to get out to you shortly. And for an update for Councilmember Peterson, I did a little reading on House Bill 1811, and it refers to a benefits charge for cities and towns not part of a fire protection district or rural fire authority. I do not believe this will pertain to Selah due to our agreement with the district, but I will keep an eye on it and let you know if something changes.
I happened to find it between the meetings and came to the same conclusion after I read that.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Chrisman.
Good evening, council. Not sure where to start. It's been a busy week. I want to get you up to speed on what happened this morning, though, in our city. We had a bomb threat at the high school at about 9:30 this morning. We were notified that there was a note that was located and turned into adult, the staff and faculty member there. The school staff immediately notified the police department, and we were on scene just a few minutes later. We were able, by the time we got there, the school had started the evacuation process, made sure that all people were out of the building safely, and then we began the process of securing the scene. We initially made some calls for some assistance and found that the bomb sniffing dog that we thought existed locally isn't here, and so the decision, under some guidance from other experts at other agencies, were to go ahead and comb through the building. The search was done and nothing was found. During the search, the investigation revealed who the author of the note was, and we were able to contact him, a juvenile student there, and we got some very clear intel about why the note was written. And about 2 hours after we evacuated the building, we allowed people to re-enter the building and then reopen the school. And so that happened this morning, and you may have seen some of the postings on social media, and I've been trying to answer some of the media calls as well to just let them know that we're working on it. Any questions about that before I move on? Great. We put out our recruitment for lateral police officers and a part-time records clerk. And the last time I talked to Ms. Morales, sounded like we're getting a pretty good response for our advertisement, especially for the part-time police clerk. So that was encouraging. We're watching the legislative session very closely. We're just a little over halfway through the short session this year, and there are some changes that are coming out of Olympia that I think are going to work in our favor. Kind of the pendulum is sort of swinging back, if you will. We met this week, just to get you up to speed. We met Rocky Wallace, myself, Jeff Peters, and some others about graffiti. And we're starting to sort of formulate a possible plan. The idea here is that we gather some good city ordinances and some good forms, and then make sure we have all the resources, and then have our city attorney give us some direct guidance on what can be done to bolster our ordinance and make sure that we have a plan in place for abating the graffiti around town. Regarding the last time we got together, we had a study session, and you heard Sheriff Udell talk about dispatching services. And I think since that time, I have been informed by Suncom that they will not be able to accommodate Selah or any other outside police agency, until, at a minimum, late summer of this year. And so I'll be asking the city to consider signing a contract with the county. And I'd like to meet with Mr. Case and the mayor and Mr. Henney about how that might look to at least get us through, I'm just going to say late summer, July, August, September, and then reassess if and when Suncom comes online. We are also dealing with a lot of traffic issues in and around the new school, and Mr. Wallace and Mr. Henney and again, Mr. Peters and I have been meeting with the school district. I think we're coming together with a pretty clear plan about how to address those congestion in and around the new school construction site. We had an all-hands meeting last week here at the police department, and just talked about some of the legislative issues We fleshed out our new mission statement, and we're still working on that, but I'll be rolling that out soon, and we'll be using that to guide and direct the officers and myself here at the PD. So you can look for that on our website and use it for some branding as well. And I think that's plenty. Unless you have a question for me, I'll yield the field.
Mr. Carlson.
If you talk about graffiti a little bit as a community, what can be done, and what do you encourage as a form of action for when this does take place?
Sure. We have talked to property owners around the city about an immediate abatement, as soon as they possibly can get that covered, whether it be on their fence or on a wall, or if it's a business. We have several businesses in town that have graffiti on the back of their buildings, and some, honestly, on the front of the buildings. And some of the businesses have been pretty proactive about getting those covered, and others not as proactive. And so we've been trying to work with them to talk to them about how really we need a rapid response to this. So that leads us to, there are some people that just can't. There are maybe older folks who are on a fixed income, maybe have some disability, and that's part of the discussion that we've been having within the city about creating a system that would allow a group, now whether that group be a church group or the Selah Downtown Association volunteers, that would be able to meet with us, get the equipment that they would need, and then go out and rapidly abate the graffiti. The message all along has been, though, to cover it as quickly as possible. Now, you'll see in the future, hopefully, as we start to work with the city attorney about ordinances, but many of the cities around us have timeframes, and they give the homeowner, the business owner, a sort of short window to get that covered up.
Okay. Mr. Peterson.
Much of the graffiti that I've seen of recent appears to be gang tagging. Have we seen any kind of increase with gang activity or anything that is going along with it?
We, it's interesting. We haven't seen any crime, other than the graffiti itself, tagging. As you may know, I think I reported out recently that a Ray's grocery store got tagged in the bathroom in the back. Some of the same type of tagging with a black felt pen was seen out in public spaces as well. We've got some pretty good photographs, as I've said before, in some circles, of the young men who were involved in that, and we're working those leads right now. We've kind of cast our net outside of Selah because we didn't find anybody in the school system who recognized those photographs. So we went to Yakima PD, probation and parole, and into the schools over there to see if they recognized them. But what I can tell you, Cliff, is that these are early communication methods for gangs, and you're right. Some of the graffiti has been very gang centric, and now, interestingly enough, we contacted a young man in Wixon Park 2 weeks ago who told the officers that he had just moved into town and that he identified with a certain gang group that just happens to be the same color and the same monikers that we're seeing around town. And so, coincidence? Probably not. But at least we're starting to identify some of those people, and we're cataloging all of the graffiti as well. So we're keeping a close eye on it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Carlson, I'd like to thank Mr. Newmeyer for texting me the answer to your question. On the biosolids, a Class A can be applied to anything at any time. They have the option to compost it a bit more or apply it as is. So that is the answer to that. Thank you. If council remembers, during the regular council meeting on December 14th, council authorized the city administrator and the public works director to sign the AOSs for the right-of-way purchase on the Valley View Third and Southern project. After signature, those AOSs were sent to WashDOT for approval. WashDOT requested that the just compensation requires an initial monetary offer of payment to owners for both necessary rights and to cure impacted improvements within those right-of-ways. And so what that basically means is when we originally wrote this and looked at the AOSs, the fences that were impacted by this project were put in the project itself to be removed by the contractor and then reinstalled by the contractor. What that does is that it brings it into prevailing wage, could make the costs go up. WashDOT requested that those be taken out of the contract for the project and then just compensation provided to the property owners for the removal of the fence. That ultimately allows the property owner to hire any fencing contractor or just take the money and have family members or whomever replace the fence at that time. Of the 14 total AOSs, there are 8 properties that are affected by this. And so the most significant is a $3,375 plus or minus addition to one of the properties. And then the rest are as follows: $1,408.70, $1,032.40, $919.71, $914.12, $758.76, $804.74, and $459.85. Now, if council would like, I am more than happy to bring those back for your review and approval for the city administrator and myself to sign those AOSs. Or we can move forward with this comment during my presentation. Are there any questions on this? Any direction that you would have for me?
Russ?
Rocky, would you need a motion to do that? Or are you just wanting a general consensus?
I'm just looking for a general consensus. I don't need a motion. I just need to know if council would like to review those 8 AOSs that need to be re-signed by Mr. Henney and myself.
Council, what is your desire here? Russ, do you still have your hand up? Okay, go ahead.
My desire is that I don't see a need to review those specifically.
Russ, you're breaking up. We can't hear you.
I don't have a need to review those specifically, personally.
Okay. Okay. Russ. Jared.
I'm just looking at, can I find that from that meeting? I would like to just review it. I don't know how formal it needs to be, but.
Okay.
Just to be aware that
right.
That is all.
Okay, Rocky, is there a timeline on this?
We would like to get this out by the end of the month, which allows me the opportunity to bring it back to council for review. It shouldn't hold up the process that much. That's why I'm asking for what your direction is. I'm more than willing to bring it back to the next council meeting. Mr. Iverson, it is a resolution that you can look at. I don't know the exact number, but I will find that and send that to you for your review. If
Okay.
you would like. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Rocky, it sounds like just even one council member wanting to review it, we need to bring it back to council.
I will have it at the next council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now let's go through some projects. The wastewater collection system improvements projects, the USDA RD is currently reviewing the signed contracts. Then we will be able to have a pre-con meeting. I'm hopeful that that happens in the next week or two as we want to start construction at the beginning of March. The Natchez Avenue Sidewalk Project, I am waiting on our consultant engineers to provide the 95% plans, and that should be anytime now. The Crusher Canyon Sewer Improvement Project, the 95% plans have been sent to the Department of Commerce for comment. Hopefully we get those back shortly. The water service meter project, staff met with our engineers and formulated a plan for wrapping up the initial needs of the city. This will move the project to writing the RFP for the procurement of the water meter and the new AMI system. And then the Fremont Avenue Sidewalk Project, as tonight, we have obligated the funding for construction. And so we're going to be finalizing the plans at 95% and then sending them on for approval. I would also like to say that Public Works is happy and healthy. So if there are any council members that would like to come over and visit or see what we do and see what we have, feel free. It's a good day. Are there any questions for me?
Jared?
My camera's flipped, so I just looked up that last ordinance there, and I was just reading through it. So I mean I'm good. I just wanted to find it and just kind of be aware. I don't know if that helps.
Okay, council, by a show of hands, who would like to see this on the next council meeting? Rocky, it looks like council is okay with this.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jared. Mr. Peters. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on, Mr. Peters. For a moment there, we were not recording. Teresa's computer went down, so we just switched the recording onto mine. So if anybody's wondering why it said that we are not recording anymore, that's the reason. Okay, Mr. Peters.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have much. We are on the building side of things. We're starting to see some more building permits come in on some of these individual lots that we have left up in Heritage Hills and some other places in town. On future development sites, we've have some inquiries from Selah Construction. They have their approved plat up in off of Spires Road, and they are looking possibly to revise that plat and possibly turn it into a planned development with more of a mixed use type of development. And so that may or may not come back to us later on this spring or summer for the council's approval. On the planning side of things, we have the public hearing coming up for the right-of-way vacation, which will be the council's next meeting on the 22nd. And that's to vacate the right-of-way for Frontier Country Investments LLC for the brewery that they're going to be building down there near the entrance to town. So off the end of Test Drive Lane. Other than that, we have coming up in the spring, Rocky and I will have the 6-year transportation improvement plan that will be being prepared and brought back to the council. And then I'm working on some regulation updates. And then it looks like with the changes to the graffiti ordinance and things like that, there might be some other ordinances that I'll be working on as well. But as the chief already explained, we're working with the school district to try to resolve all the traffic issues and work through any planning issues while they finish up their construction, which will go on through the summer or into the summer. And other than that, that's all I have. Any questions?
Mr. Wickenhagen.
Yeah, Jeff, there was a legislation on AWC was following regarding the requirement that you could not have single family dwellings zoned near transit stations. I'm just wondering if the civic center in that area, is that considered transit station for Selah or not?
When I looked at that, I didn't really specifically look at the legislations with that in mind, but I don't believe so, because our civic center isn't really technically developed as a transit hub or center, like similar to what Yakima has, where you have multiple buses, coming in and stopping there and or transferring people.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, concerns? All right, I'll go ahead and mute here, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Schwab.
Good evening, everybody. We are planning to open spring soccer registration on February 21st. Weather permitting, we plan to run the soccer season March through the first part of June. We want to avoid spring break, so we won't start our game season until after that. Otherwise, working on the 4th of July, working on the car show. Like Katrina mentioned, we're going to run hot rods with Sip and Stroll. I think the plan is to have our event start at 10 and wrap up at around 3, so that everybody can mingle, hit it, Sip and Stroll, see some cars, and just enjoy a Saturday in town. 4th of July, we're still planning to do the full celebration at Carlin. So we've got Alpha Pyrotechnics going to do our fireworks again. We're sad that Milt won't be here, but I think Alpha's in good hands. And then working with Rocky and Public Works on the comp plan. And Ron and Kelsey are giving the office at the Civic Center a facelift. So if you guys stop by, you'll notice it looks a little bit different. A couple weeks ago, I had a really good conversation with Jared. So if anybody has any questions about anything recreation related or Civic Center related, give me a call, shoot me an email, or stop by the office like Jared did. And I am happy to sit down and chat with anybody about anything. So if anybody has any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, that's all I've got.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Councilman Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. Some really exciting news for the pool. The Selah Park and Recreation Service Area Board met on a special meeting last. And by the way, that was the first meeting in over 2 years that we've had a full 7-member board, as the county also appointed Carol Holden to sit on that board. So we're now a full 7 members. But the exciting news was a community member has agreed to donate $200,000 to the pool for maintenance and operations. As far as that'll go, and combined with the income levels going, it should operate for at least a couple of years, maybe longer. Some depending on what other kind of revenue is raised, it could last over 3 years even. So in conjunction with that, the board voted to rename the pool, the aquatic center, to be the Bruce Buchanan Memorial Aquatic Center. And that will occur now once all of the paperwork's done on it. So that's the new name for the Selah Aquatic Center. It also helps us in the fact that it distinguishes and eliminates the name Selah from it, which also contributed to some confusion within the community that the city actually ran the pool. And as you know, the city does not own it or manage it, and that's done by the Selah Park and Recreation Service Area Board. So it's a separate entity, and it's funded and owned by all of the citizens within the service area, which includes the same basic area as the school district. So that's really fantastic news. We will be open this summer. There was some question of whether we would be able to or not because we didn't have the funding. And with this very generous donation and commitment, we will be able to operate this summer. So that's fantastic news for all of the citizens of the area. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Costello.
I have no report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Peterson.
A couple of weeks ago, I attended the AWC City Legislative Action Day. And we started out, we met with a panel that comprised of the majority and minority leaders of each of the chambers. Representative Jenkins and Wilcox and Senators Billig and Brom. And one of the first takeaways that I had was how much their priority, well, you know, they were politicians knowing that they were speaking to city representatives. And so not totally surprising, but it was a little surprising how much the two parties agreed on what the legislative priorities would be and how they aligned with AWC City's priorities. Since it was a couple of weeks ago, obviously a lot of the bills that we talked about have totally different status than they do now. One of the things that Chief Chrisman alluded to, the law enforcement clarification bills actually are advancing well. House Bills 1735 and 1719, solid bipartisan support, and were referred over to the Senate and were in the had committee hearings on the Senate side this morning, but all of the law enforcement clarification bills seem to be advancing well with, I don't think they had any amendments. Kevin alluded to one of the things that there's actually a couple of bills that are floating around that talk about deal with planning and housing that expand the elements that are needed in Growth Management Act and our comprehensive plans. And the ones that seem to be the strongest have had virtually no city input, and talk about, I think it was the same one that Kevin was referring to. In general, they preempt local authority on zoning and have housing density connected with population. One of the new elements that they're talking about, including in the comprehensive plans, is something that's called environmental capability or something. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure. Everything was supposed to clear original policy, the policy committees or the original chamber. They were supposed to be out of committee last Thursday and finance committee yesterday. We're really in this procedural thing now that it would seem like we have a better idea of where things are going, but there's like over 2,000 bills that were introduced, and so I don't know where all of them are. But some of those planning ones sound kind of problematic for the cities. After we had that panel, met with Governor Inslee, which was like, after being so impressed of how the legislative leaders were in line with the city priorities, Governor Inslee started out by saying, before I get to what you want to talk about, I want to talk about. And he spent most of his time talking about COVID. During that, he did sort of indicate that there was a possibility of lessening of some restrictions, in his words, with the anticipated rapid decline of Omicron. And so, and then he talked about the green energy industries that are doing in Washington in response to climate change. And he really didn't get into any of the city priorities until we got a brief question and answer period on infrastructure. Basically, the only thing he said was, it's in the governor's budget, so tell him to vote for it. And he spent a long time talking about and promoting the increased density in primarily urban and commuting corridors. In the breakout session, I went to, they had 3 concurrent breakout sessions. The one I went on to was on advocacy, and AWC, along with many other cities, set legislative priorities and I'd like to suggest that we as a city take a more active role in what the state legislature is doing, because they're the ones that hand down to us a lot of the mandates that we have to follow. And would also suggest that we invite our legislators after the end of the session to have them tell us what transpired and how we can get ahead of the flow next session. And that's about all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson.
No real report. I just wanted to say thank you to Senator Honeyford and specifically Representative Foe for their efforts to provide this funding for this Crusher Canyon project. That's fantastic. It's nice to know that we have representatives that work for us and look out for us. Second thing, huge thank you to the Buchanan family for their huge contribution. I think the community is going to be very grateful. I think this is fantastic, and they deserve all the appreciation we can provide them. Joe, good to see you back. Glad you're doing better, and that's all I've got.
Thank you. Councilman Iverson.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Councilman Wickenhagen.
Just a couple things on some things Clifford mentioned. One of them is I've been following as part of my former position, followed legislation pretty closely for like the last 5 years. There is a strong move to move away from single family dwellings. So that's just something, and I know that's one thing in our community that is being supported pretty dramatically from the communications we've had from the public. So there's going to be a conflict probably coming pretty soon, where the West Side definitely is focused on doing more people in a smaller area. So just something to be aware of. The other thing, Clifford, that as now you are part of the Conference of Government group, they usually have most of the legislators come in and do a here's what's been going on and what's happening. So that all occurs at one meeting with COG. So you'll hear most of that. Other than that, I attended they had a moving forward for the Valley tourism community. They released their annual report. We had a presentation from the state visitors and convention group. They've rebranded their logos and their websites and those types of things to try and increase tourism to the state of Washington. We are by far the lowest. We have the least funded tourism group of the West Coast by a lot, especially compared to California. But anyway, they've rebranded it, outdoor type stuff, wineries, the breweries, those types of things are big on that. So we saw some presentation on that. And also, if you remember last year, they did not release a new travel guide. The new travel guide is out and it will be distributed around the valley and the places that people are visiting. So if you want to see that, let me know. I can get you a copy of it so you can review it. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Marquise.
No report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Elizabeth, did you get my message yesterday?
I did not.
Okay, I will call you tomorrow. Thanks. Mr. Case,
I have no public report.
thank you. Mr. Peters, do you have your hands up? Did I miss you again?
Yes,
today?
Madam Mayor, I do. I just wanted to make one comment here. So I just looked at or relooked at House Bill 1220, which is the one that Councilman Peters was looking at. Yeah, it does go and require that we start to plan for additional housing types and affordable housing of all income levels, as well as transitional housing and emergency shelters and things. And it requires us at this point time to, once we update our comprehensive plan, we'll have to look at all those factors and provide analysis for that information in our housing element. And then basically develop goals and policies that either identify where we have a housing shortage or a shortage of that type of housing, and how we are going to either fund those things or address those deficiencies moving forward in our comprehensive plan. So that's in a nutshell what the bill requires us to do. And like I think it was Kevin who said, this could be a conflict down the road if the state decides when we redo our comprehensive plan, if we don't address it sufficiently, they could deem us non-compliant, and then we would not be subject to any state funding for some of our other development projects, including our streets. So maybe here next year, depending upon whether this legislation stays the same, we might need to start thinking about setting aside some money to get a housing consultant to come on board and to take a good hard look at our existing inventory and how we can meet these guidelines. And that's all I had.
Thank you. Mr. Hinney.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Jeff, when you go and start looking at more of those House bills, I could be wrong, but it seems to me when I was reading some of that stuff here lately, they were having tiered requirements, cities 20,000 and over, 10,000 to 20,000, but it was fairly silent on cities under 10,000. So anyway, just next time you get into that, you might look into there and see.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for that, because I know exactly what you're talking about, Joe. And with regard to, what was it about?
It was about
2 or 3 years ago, we had the ones for the attached single family dwellings and the accessory dwellings language. And that particular bill did have the cutoff in it, but the House Bill 1220, at least I didn't see it when I was kind of reading through it here just now, didn't seem to have that same type of language. So I'll go through it again and report to you further on it. But that's just what I just wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up on, at least what I saw on the first blush. So
okay. And I'm sure Dan he's had a busy day and whatnot and overlooked it, but the Law and Justice Center, we sent an email last week, or Dan did. You might talk about it, and sent an email to the consultant about several items or issues that maybe we can do to reduce the overall estimated construction costs of that facility. And when I got an email from her, or from the one architect yesterday, and said that they would get us that information hopefully by the end of this week. So that's where we're at with that. Dale and I have been still working with BDI on a solid waste contract update. I sent her another email this afternoon on some of the points that we want to see. And then we get this to a point, we'll sit down and have a face-to-face meeting with them on some actual rates and whatnot. One of the sticking points is recycling, you know, about whether or not we're going to, right now we do recycling for free. They're saying that it costs them $90,000 a year because the plastics now are, you can't recycle all of them. You only, I can't really get 5, 6 grades, and only 2 of them are acceptable. Cardboard, you can't have like cereal box cardboard. That's not really cardboard. They're talking like corrugated cardboard and certain glasses. So they're saying they're losing, like I say, 90,000 a year. They're going to want either a mandatory recycling throughout town where people, you know, all have to participate. And I can't remember, it was $4 a family for twice a month pickup, or it was $7.25 or something if you want to get a subscription and get twice a month. So we're still talking that point. So anyway, I hope to bring a study session to you folks on the first meeting in March. Get this thing finalized. Other than that, well, I entertain any questions anybody might have.
Kevin?
Joe, what type of time frame are we looking at for a renewal for our citizens if we negotiate the contract before the new rates would come in?
Well, the new rates, we did a partial rate increase already the first of the year based on the rate increase formula, the CPI and index and whatnot, and we've done that. But they're saying that formula in the contract that expired in 2019 is not covering their cost. So that being said, I would assume that once we finish this contract, they're probably going to want to see almost immediate adjustments to the rates for the solid waste. Like I say, the recycling, we're still trying to hash out how we want to go with that. A lot of folks say they're interested in recycling, you know, and want to do it, but like I say, right now it's free. They need 35% of the citizens or the households to sign up for the recycling in order to make a break even mark. Right now, I think we have 73 households signed up, but again, free versus a pay for system. So we're thinking if it drops by half, we'll be at that 35%. If we don't, then they're going to want the city to make up the difference to reach a 35% equivalency. You know, then there's another legislative House bill out there that says that they're discussing that all residents will be required to have a recycling service. Then there's another House bill that's talking about that the manufacturers of items need to have a recycling package, a recycling can, or whatever, and that then they will bore the cost for recycling. So I don't know where that recycling is going to go. It's all over the board, but when we get this contract together, we'll probably have to have some recycling. Probably be, like I say, the volunteer to sign up for recycling, and with the clause in the contract that allow us to renegotiate recycling if legislature pass some sort of a law that requires a different approach, or if we just fall on our face and only get 20% of the residents signing up for recycling, and then if the city will either have to pick up the additional 15% or regroup again. So actually, this recycling just there's nothing. It's not worth nothing, you know. But you hate to just throw it in the dump. So.
My household, Amazon's responsible for 90%.
But their cardboard's all corrugated, though, isn't it? That's it.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Council, the retreat, it is set for March 2nd from 1 to 4:30. Teresa's still waiting for your comments on what you would like to see discussed that day. So if you could get that in there, we can set up an agenda. It will be by Zoom. So we're stuck looking at each other on a little tiny square. Also, Mike, for you, that board, the Office of Emergency Management, the 911 board, that you're going to be the alternate voter on, there's a meeting Thursday morning at 9. You can either do it by Zoom. I'm going to go down to the SunCon room if you would like to join me.
Okay, I'll have to, I'm not sure what I have on Thursday, so I'll.
Okay, just
I'll
give me a
you
call in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That's all I have, guys. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved by Kevin, seconded by Mike to adjourn. All those in favor?